1.
All right, so welcome to the final review of the evening, a game called Wirenet. And
It's
at
about
its,
wires and nets.
yeah, I'm like, well, it's also a minimalistic forward-scrolling shooter. Like, I hesitate to use the word shmup because it's not really in space or involving
Shmups
space
don't have to
ships.
be in space.
Fair enough. I guess I'm being a little literal here.
Yeah, it's not a Gradius, but it's
No.
it's pretty much on the ball for the kind of gameplay. It's just this looks like it's being played on like an oscilloscope or an X-ray machine or something.
Yeah, some really primitive computing device
Mm-hmm.
is the general aesthetic here. And I'm not exactly sure if there's a story here, but um, like all there is explore the isometric madness of the pseudo-vector Wirenet, latest retro VR technology to hack neurocybernetic systems. And that's not even the game. Like, you know, this is pretty old school in a lot of senses. Maybe not so much in its design though. Like, it definitely doesn't play out like a traditional shmup. And yeah, that's really its most interesting feature outside of its aesthetic, because the goal of the level isn't to, well, the goal of most levels isn't to kill things. But
you have to when
yeah.
you get to the end of the level, you have to have enough data to meet a certain requirement.
Mm-hmm. And data may be extracted in two ways. On the first level, it's by killing certain enemies. I'm not exactly sure what they're meant to represent. Bits or something?
We're also not exactly sure what you're meant to represent, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure what exactly most things here are supposed to represent. Outside of the bosses, because mainly they tell you what the bosses are. Like you're fighting the BIOS in one level somehow. Never mind if you destroyed that, that would be fatal error territory.
Indeed.
You know, I'm not sure you understand what a BIOS actually is. But anyway, yeah, your job is to collect data points for some vagary, and in subsequent levels, the data points are just scattered about, and you have to start collecting them. The challenge there is some of the data points are viruses, and you have to pay attention to the number.
And viruses are bad, MK.
Yes and no. You want to get the weak viruses. They will actually help you get stronger. The strong viruses will make you weaker or outright kill you.
So running off immune system logic.
So yeah, I think it correlates to the numbers down. The ampule defense numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if the virus is smaller than 16, you're good. If it's larger, yeah, you're gonna hurt. And the way
because that's the size that your system can handle, I guess.
Yeah, and the way it works is like your hit points go up, the amount of hit points you have, both in terms of capacity and how many you like actually have, will go up or down depending on the virus you get. And in most of those levels, there are no enemies. Like, one of them had the enemies, but most of it was just collecting the data. And there are about 5 levels. All told, I was done with the entire game in a half an hour. Yeah, you can kind of see why I was able to fit it into the schedule this week.
Hmm.
You know,
An interesting thing that you said you never figured out how to do is visible in the demo uh,
yeah. You can,
videos on Kickstarters. You can shoot in all four directions.
yeah, you
Apparently,
can, like that might have been tied with the keyboard, because the way you move and the way you shoot is with the mouse. I couldn't, like I managed to shoot up and down and left, but by accident. So there's also apparently a way to activate a color mode for bonuses. Never really figured out how to do that either. Like, um, like, and the game doesn't really offer any in-game instructions. Like, it will not tell you what weapons you can use, and apparently this game is the latest iteration of a long line of Wirenets, because there's some legacy stuff here that doesn't otherwise work. Like the passcode feature doesn't work here.
Hmm.
Yeah, that just screams to me. This was in a previous iteration and they couldn't get it out.
or maybe we'll be in an update at some point or something.
Something like that. I mean, and this version's been out for like 9 months. So, like, yeah, and that's about it in terms of what this game has to offer. Like, and finally we come to price. Uh, it's retails for $5. Honestly, that's like if it were $1, $2, I'd say yes. $5 is a bit much for a game that's probably not even going to last you an hour.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like there's a hell of a lot here.
No, and
I mean, it's not bad, but it's also not much.
yeah, it's also, I think its biggest failing is it really doesn't have the replay value that your traditional shmup. Like it's got score, but it's not that hard to acquire score in this game. And there is only like a finite amount of score based on enemies, and there are no leaderboards either.
Mhm.
What which really hurts if you're going to have score. So yeah, ultimately I'd have to say give it a pass at $5. Wait for a sale, or pick it up in a like one of the bundles it's in, the Zero Workshop Games bundle, or I'm not even going to attempt pronouncing that, but you know, alongside a couple of other small games, sure. $5 on its own, it's just, even for a minimalistic shooter type game, this feels minimal. Like, and yeah, that'll about conclude our review session for this week. Uh, and the week ahead, we do not have a Tuesday show this week scheduled. And okay, so Wednesday is kind of up in the air. We do not currently have a guest, not from a lack of trying, but this was always going to be a hard one to fill because
It's GDC, right?
yeah, it is it is the week of the Game Developer Conference, and that is one of the major conferences in the game dev sector. So that's been sucking a lot of talent away from a show like ours. Um, so we have a contingency plan. We got a two-topic thing in case we need to, but it is a few days out, so we can, if we get a guest on like Tuesday, we can still have them on Wednesday, kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not optimistic about that, but it could still happen. It has happened in the past. And as far as, yeah, next week, we've got another 3 games to review in Rad Rogers. That is a game only I got. It is, let's see, we also got Guppy, which is another really small game. Uh, so I took the liberty of adding Fable Fortune to the mix. That is a free-to-play title, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and until Wednesday, I wish you good gaming.